Welcome in to NFL Live, where we start with breaking news. Adam Schefter, give us the latest on what's going on in Kansas City.
Courtney, a Dallas County judge has ruled that Rashee Rice must have 5 years of probation and 30 days of jail time related to a multi-car crash in Dallas during the 2024 offseason. We've been waiting to hear what the legal system would say about this. Today, a judge in Dallas spoke, and that means that the NFL will be next. The NFL is expected to discipline Rashee Rice in this particular case under the personal conduct policy. It calls for a baseline suspension of 6 games for off-the-field issues where there are felonies involved. And in this particular case, that's exactly what happened. The league is expected to step in now. There is expected to be a ruling before the beginning of the regular season. And I think many people across the league are expecting that Rashee Rice will receive a multi-game suspension to open the year, potentially 6 games, but we'll see what the league decides.
All right, Adam, stay close. We appreciate the latest on Rashee Rice. Big news coming out of Kansas City today. Rice played in only 4 games last season after he tore his ACL and his season ended. So with the suspension looming for him, let's take a look at the Chiefs' first 6 games of the season. 4 of Kansas City's 6 opponents made the playoffs last year, with the exception being the Giants and the Jags. All 4 of those games against playoff teams are going to be in Kansas City, featuring a rematch of Super Bowl 59 with the Eagles coming to town in week 2. Courtney Cronin, Sam Macho, ESPN NFL analyst, our front office insider, Mike Tannenbaum. We just heard from Adam Schefter. He's going to join us throughout the hour as well. I want to look at this stretch of games for the Kansas City Chiefs. That's a tough stretch for Patrick Mahomes and company to be without their number 1 receiver. Sam, like, if you're forecasting how they survive without him, where do you go?
Well, I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to struggle, but that's with or without Rashee Rice. Why do I say that? You look at those first 4 games, 3 of those teams are playoff teams. So about the Philadelphia Eagles, LA Chargers, who are getting better, the Baltimore Ravens. So I think they will struggle early on, but that's not to say that they haven't done enough to try and not necessarily prepare for this move. I feel like they knew there was going to be some type of suspension, but they go and they get who is Jalen Royals in the draft. They know that Hollywood Brown is going to be back healthy again. So they're trying and supplement that loss. But that stretch early on is going to be difficult with or without Rashee Rice.
Yeah, Sam, I see it differently. I think they're better than a 15-win team a year ago. They addressed what was their biggest issue, the offensive line. If Josh Simmons was healthy, their first-round pick out of Ohio State, may have been a top 10 pick, re-signed Trey Smith. My other question, guys, is this, though. Obviously it was a tragedy what happened last year. Rashee Rice needs to pay the appropriate punishment. However, once he was hurt, I'm surprised that they didn't try to move the process along and maybe serve a suspension last year while he is on IR, sort of get all that behind him. So hopefully he's healthy this year, and then maybe would have had more eligibility. So the timing of this, again, I'm not surprised by this, but I'm just surprised they didn't try to move this along last year.
Did they do enough in this offseason to add more weapons on the outside to give Patrick Mahomes the ability to create that explosive offense to combat a loss like this?
Absolutely, Courtney. Look, as Sam mentioned, Jalen Royals out of Utah State, their 4th-round pick, I think has a really good upside. They also have Juju Smith-Schuster, Sky Moore, along with last year's first-round pick Xavier Worthy, and obviously, hopefully, a healthy Hollywood Brown. They will get Rashee Rice back, but again, to me, it all starts up front. When you look at this offense, Patrick Mahomes was 30th in air yards per attempt. That tells you he's getting rid of the ball really fast because they really struggled at left tackle in particular. So to me, even without Rashee Rice, give me a well-protected Patrick Mahomes, Sam, and I feel like we got a real shot.
Yeah.
Do you have any concerns about them winning the division in light of this news?
I don't have concerns about them winning the division. And I go back to Mike T's point about the offensive line. You get Josh Simmons, which is a huge move. You re-signed Trey Smith, so he's still on your team. That's another big move. You've addressed your offensive line. That was the biggest issue in the Super Bowl. It was those 6 sacks, the offensive line getting beat up and bullied by the Philadelphia Eagles. So that was the biggest move. I do think they will struggle early just because all those teams that we're talking about, they're not getting worse. The LA Chargers are not getting worse. They're going to be more physical. Amarion Hampton, the first-round pick running back, is going to be a bruiser. And so I think there will be a level of struggle early, but I think this team is still set to win the division. They're going to be hungry after losing the Super Bowl last year.
Okay, let's bring back in Adam Schefter. Adam, we know that Rashee Rice is not the only receiver right now dealing with legal issues this week. What is the latest you can tell us about Minnesota's Jordan Addison?
Well, Courtney, a judge in Minnesota or in California today ruled that Jordan Addison would have 6 months of probation. He'd have to take 2 online classes. And after that period of time, obviously, the charge was pleaded down. The bottom line here is just like a judge ruled today in Dallas, a judge ruled today in California regarding Jordan Addison's DUI. And now it's a situation where the NFL will step in. And if we go by the collective bargaining agreement, he would be subject to a baseline suspension of 3 games, which would cost him $88,000 per game, and it would void the guarantees remaining in his contract. So it could be a costly suspension for Jordan Addison. But like Rashee Rice, it looks like it's only a matter of time before the league steps in and hands down its discipline with Jordan Addison.
All right, a situation we will be monitoring in Kansas City and in Minnesota. Adam, thank you for the latest. Be sure to stay close here with us throughout the remainder of NFL Live. All right, first day of school vibes out in SoCal with our first training camp practice of the offseason in the books. Los Angeles Chargers had practice number 1 on Thursday in front of fans at the Bolt. Just 2 weeks from tonight, they face the Lions in the Hall of Fame game. Lindsey Theory is on the scene in El Segundo and joins us now after hearing today from Jim Harbaugh. Lindsey, what'd you hear from the Chargers coach on the first day of camp?
Courtney, you nailed it. First day of school vibes. Jim Harbaugh's excitement and enthusiasm was palpable. He said, in fact, his goal for day 1 was to not let his emotions get the best of him as they got through football practice. After speaking with reporters for 25 minutes about everything under the sun, including the 7 presidents he's met, the Pope, and the 22 balls he's caught at MLB stadiums, Harbaugh took to the practice field. That was about 20 minutes before practice actually got going. The first player to follow him out there, Justin Herbert. And what Harbaugh expects for Herbert this season? Well, he says everyone must measure up to the quarterback.
You know, I think Justin's biggest weakness is those around him that he's counting on offense. Us coaches and playmakers and players on offense. We got to get to Justin Herbert's level.
You know, I think he's the head man, and we're going to follow him no matter what. But you know, I think we could all play towards him and try to make him proud.
Justin also enthusiastic about day 1, but in a little bit of a mood shift after practice because receiver Mike Williams is going to be retiring. He is retired from the Chargers as of today. Williams' agent, I should say, speaking with the Chargers and delivering them that news last night, and that is a big loss. Justin Herbert saying it's heartbreaking. Derwin James, their safety, echoing that same sentiment. Williams was expected to return and be a big playmaker for Herbert now after a couple of seasons away in New York and with Pittsburgh. And also, as far as receivers go, Herbert now really needing to see his rookie, Trey Harris. Harris is still not at training camp as the 2nd-round pick, and his representation tried to get a deal done with the Chargers and get that contract signed. I asked Harbaugh about the urgency to get Harris into camp. Harbaugh telling me the sooner the better. It can't happen fast enough. That's the facts, as the young people say. Courtney.
We appreciate it. Thanks so much. That's a huge loss for Justin Herbert right now and the Los Angeles Chargers. Keeping an eye on Trey Harris.